Deadlift day is rolling around, but you're not exactly feeling up to it. Maybe you had a slight back tweak while deadlifting in the previous week, or something happened, you were playing a sport and you had a slight back tweak, and now you're kind of like, I don't know if I should be deadlifting. But you've been deadlifting for months straight, making amazing progress, and you don't really want to pump the brakes on your deadlift because you don't want all that progress to go down the drain. So what do you do in this situation? Are you the type of person who's just going to push through the pain? If you're young, like I'm talking early 20s, this used to be me. I used to push through that pain, and oftentimes I'd be just okay after a while. Just my body healed very fast. When you're young, that's kind of what happens. Now that I'm in my 30s, and for you, if you're in your 30s and even older, you're going to notice, of course, if you train hard, that your ability to recover from these small aches and pains is a lot slower than it was before. So a lot of the times, you need to have the ability to work around your injury without having to just completely ignore a specific lift. Because if you completely ignore a specific lift, that is basically how all that progress is just going to go down the drain. So I'm Kyle. I am a lifter who has been injured a lot, and I would like to share what I do for myself and with a lot of my clients when they're having back pain, yet they want to keep on progressing on their deadlifting or back exercises. So when you watch this video, I'm going to go over just a couple things that I like to do and ways to work around injuries so that you can keep on progressing, or at least, stay in your maintenance until your injury is better. And then you can start really getting back into your deadlifts. Probably it's going to be your main exercise, and really hammering away at that and getting a lot stronger and keep on progressing. So the number one thing, there's going to be a couple things here I want to go over, but number one thing to remember, and I go over this a lot, is just because you're injured, don't use that as an excuse to not train, okay? Very, very important. You can train through an injury, okay? If you hurt your leg, you have 4 different appendages. You hurt one appendage, you have 3 others that you can still train. So, of course, if you have like some sort of debilitating back injury, then sure, I guess maybe you're gonna have to take some time off. Then there's clearly reasons that you will have to take fully time away from the gym. But I'm just gonna say for now, try your best to find a way to work around whatever pain you're having. So let's specifically touch on the deadlift here. So a lot of times when people deadlift, they start with conventional pulling, and a lot of people are either built for it or built where their mobility or their form needs to be tweaked quite a lot in order to make it so that their low back and upper back, but low back mainly, can recover properly. So for me personally, I started using Sumo Deadlift because I noticed that I just simply recovered a lot faster. It was weaker than my conventional deadlift to start off with, but over a couple of months, I just kept on sumo pulling, and whenever I would sumo pull, I realized that, oh cool, like the next day my back feels perfectly fine. Whereas conventional deadlifts, I would deadlift and a day, 2 days, even sometimes 3 days, my back would still feel sore. So that's not the point. The point is, even with the sumo deadlifting, especially lately, now that I've really gone back to sumo deadlifting with on a regular basis, like 2 times a week now. When I first got back into it, my volume kind of went from 0. Like I tell people, I literally deadlifted probably 20 to 30 times over a 3-year period. That's it. And that was because, I wasn't focused at all on deadlifting. I was focused only on my jiu-jitsu, and now I'm kind of getting back into both of them simultaneously. So when I got back into deadlifting though, I got a little bit of a back injury. I tweaked the connective tissue between my L3 and L4, and I basically had to take a full month off from deadlifting. So that really sucked, because right now deadlift is kind of the only big exercise out of the big 3 that I can do properly, just because of other chronic injuries I have. So what I did though, however, was obviously I didn't just say, okay, well screw it, I'm gonna take a month off deadlift, it's gonna go down even lower than what it already was. No. So a couple of things that I did was I made sure that I looked at the exercises that I was able to do that would hopefully assist the deadlift, and that's what I did instead of the deadlift. So basically all normal pulling exercises for me were out, and for you it might be completely different. If you sometimes hurt your low back, for instance, a lot of the times you can still do things for your hips. So, exercise like hip thrusts. And, hip thrusts are kind of hit or miss, but I like them. I've used them with success in the past. But hip thrusts are a great way to basically allow your low back to stay in a really nice and neutral position and not load axially, so not load from above down. That's when you're holding a barbell. It's kind of like an axial load. An axial load is like squatting, but basically it's compressing your spine. So you're not doing that load pattern when you do the hip thrust or bridge. So that's a really, really good exercise. At least you can work your glutes and you can work your hamstrings. Things like back extensions may or may not, but basically you want to find exercises, and you're gonna have to experiment because different people are gonna be good for different exercises, but you're gonna have to find exercises that work for you and allow you to be in the gym and allow you to keep on training the musculature that is involved in the deadlift without putting your back in a compromised position. So a couple of other exercises that I really like, and for clients that I have who come to me with, back pain from whatever life, a lot of them are seated all the time, so that's just not a good recipe for your back. So for a lot of these people who have back pain, when everything else is healthy, what I like to do to at least train their lower body away from deadlifts and its variations, like, most of my clients, I like to do some sort of deadlift, a lot of Romanian deadlifts, stuff like that. So what I will do for pretty much all of them is start ramping up a little bit on the single leg exercises. So the single leg exercises are awesome because you can still work obviously your quads, but you can work your hamstrings and your glutes. And because the load, like, you might not want to use a barbell, so things like dumbbells and kettlebells, or things lifted in the front, like goblet squat, kettlebell or dumbbell stuff, those types of exercises are really good because it takes a lot of the stress off your spine, and that's what we're looking for. But we're still able to, again, train the musculature around our hips, which is very, very important. So you're gonna have whatever exercises that you really, really like to do, and that's great. So even if you have to do isolation exercise on machines, this is like, I've for a long time I did not like machines, but machines definitely do have their place, and I like them especially for people who have injuries, because you take the stability completely out of the lift. So you're only working kind of a specific muscle group, and the fact that you don't have to stabilize the joints around the muscle group that you're using means that it's often a lot safer on the joints above and below. So things like hamstring curls, I wouldn't necessarily do those regularly, but if someone is injured and they still want to work their lower body, something like a hamstring curl can be really, really beneficial for a short period of time until the lower back heals. So basically what I want you to get out of this is, when you are injured, you need to work the musculature around the exercise that you want to improve upon or maintain, so in this case deadlift. So you want to obviously focus a lot on the hips, the glutes, the hamstrings, your quads. You can do calves, of course, but that's not really an important exercise for the deadlift. But make sure that just because you have some sort of injury, you are still doing an exercise. And make sure, unfortunately, even if you have a back injury and you want to do heavy hip thrusts just might not be in the cards for you at the moment. You might have to use really light, you might have to use body weight to start off with. But at least you're doing something. It's going to be better than nothing. And then hopefully over time you can start adding weight. And so during the recovery process, start adding weight. Once you find that the weights are getting close to what they used to be, hopefully your back is better and you're good to go back to deadlifting the way you were. So this is just a simple thing and a simple way to work around injuries that I highly recommend you do, because if you train hard on a regular basis, you're going to run into injuries, and you have to have some sort of strategy to work around them so that you can keep on progressing, keep on making those gains in the gym, because if you're not making the gains in the gym, what's the point of going? So thank you very much for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button. I really appreciate that, and it helps me out a lot. If you enjoy these types of videos, I got a lot more coming to you. Hit that subscribe button, and I look forward to talking to you again very soon. Peace.